HRN listeners. As we celebrate our 15th year, we are deepening our commitment to giving voice to the next generation of food systems storytellers, and we need your help. Our internship and fellowship programs help activate new possibilities for underrepresented and underestimated young people through experiential journalism, audio engineering, and production training. Through these unique programs, HRN helps food equity stewards build essential workforce readiness skills that expand their potential and foster economic mobility. Please consider supporting these critical programs. And with a minimum donation, you can be entered to win a dinner for two at an amazing restaurant in one of 8 cities and tickets to a concert at a great venue in one of those cities. We have incredible partners across the country who have donated, as they also share our passion for helping to educate the next generation of food systems storytellers. Check out heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. That's heritageradionetwork.org/15 to donate and enter to win today. And make sure you donate before March 31st. Thank you.
This episode is brought to you by Diageo Bar Academy. Learn more at diageobaracademy.com. That's DIAGEO baracademy.com.
So you don't shun the devil with your rock and roll load. Knows that country music's gonna save your soul. The devil runs his groove in them rhythm and blues that sound. It's gonna get you sun in the air.
Welcome back to The Speakeasy. I'm Damon Bolte.
And I'm Greg Benson.
Greg, how the hell are you, buddy?
What's up, man? I'm good. I had a hell of a weekend.
Oh, yeah?
How about you, man? Yeah.
I did, actually.
Tell me about
but I want to hear about yours first.
Okay. No, you go first. All right. So first of all, it was a beautiful weekend for one of the 2 days here in New York. Really, really nice on Sunday. And I was lucky because one of my best buddies was visiting from DC. He and I actually met when we were a part of an opening staff of a brewery 9 years ago. And, we've stayed friends since then. I was the best man at his wedding last summer and the summer before that because COVID. And he was up here visiting. So we got to, ride our bikes around the park, visit a bunch of cool spots, including your friend Pepper at Grand Army, Damon. And,
Nice.
Still try and pretend that we were, 22, which gets harder and harder every time we hang out.
Oh, my God. Yeah. Oh, 22. Geez. I'd already been drinking in bars for like 6 years at that point.
I know.
I was ready to give it up.
I know. It's getting too old for this shit.
Yeah.
But so part of the impetus, the excuse for the reason we were hanging out this weekend was the new Batman movie came out, and we both like superhero movies. They're kind of our preferred form of brain candy. They're fun to sneak a little flask of Kingston Negroni and just chill out.
Thanks.
So we went to a really late showing on Friday, and because both of us had had a long day and were exhausted and had been drinking a lot, both of us wound up taking a nap during the movie, which, again, I'm not 22 anymore, and sometimes I forget that. So on Saturday, we're hanging out. We're in downtown Brooklyn, and we're like, you know what? Let's give this another shot. Let's try this showing at Alamo. So we wind up seeing the Batman again on Saturday, and then going and having some cocktails and some oysters after the fact at Grand Army, which is super fun. Then Sunday, we're biking around the park. We're hanging out at Holiday Cocktail Lounge. We're tired. We're getting a little tipsy, as one does at Holiday Cocktail Lounge. And me, as a joke, I say, there's a 9:00 showing of the Batman at this place that's right around the corner from my apartment in Bay Ridge. And I'm sure we've all been there, but those jokes that start out not serious at all, and then the more you talk about them, the more you're like, yeah, I think we're actually going to do this. So I saw the Batman the first 3 nights that it was out in theaters. It was my weekend with Batman. It was fun.
Wow.
It was a good time to, relive the glory days of when we were, weazened old men of 22 and 23 drinking in bars. And I definitely paid for it on Monday morning.
Are you also one of those guys who waits in line for the new iPhone? It's pretty.
No, Only superhero movies, not gadgets. That's
Gotcha.
the superhero movies, and once a year in Baltimore, Belgian beers. But that's it. I don't
Nice.
wait in line for that. I podcast, Damon. People send me shit. I don't have to wait in line for it.
That's
anymore.
true. Totally, man. Well, that sounds great. I mean, like it sounds like kind of a freewheeling weekend. It kind of worry free, man. That's kind of how my weekend was too. I had a friend in town who was her birthday, and we like my brother happened to host a party at his house, but we all went to dinner. A group of like 25 of us. Basically, it was like a buyout of a restaurant, but it felt normal. You know, things are starting to feel normal again. But you know, I did something like you were doing last month. I went sober for a little bit of last week, a few days, and you know, it made the impact of the party. It's kind of like your weekend too. You know, like I was like, damn, maybe I shouldn't have done that. But I did get to drink a lot of good, really great wine with some friends and hang out. Actually, we're going to be talking about wine today. Speaking of, yeah. So, you know, I think some of the listeners have probably caught on to this by now, but, so I still, thanks for going by Grand Army this weekend. That's awesome. I'm still a co-owner of Grand Army. I don't really bartend anymore so much. I do some guest bartending every once in a while, some presentations, things like that. But I live in California, specifically in the Bay Area, and I work in Napa, and I'm wine adjacent. So I am the experiential specialist for the California Brandy House in downtown Napa. So it's fun for me because I get to work in both wine and spirits. When you're talking about California Brandy, you're really talking about a spirit category that covers both. And I know that you're not too much of a wine guy, but we're going to talk about it a lot today because in the studio, we actually have someone from a very important winery. Probably like when you're talking like Napa Valley wines, it probably can't get more important than the one we're going to talk about today. So actually, man, I wish I would have popped a bottle of wine, but it's 9 a.m. here, so I probably shouldn't do that. But we do have Christy Whitman in the studio today. She's the director of winemaking at The Prisoner Wine Company. Welcome to the show, Christy.
Thank you very much, Damon. Glad to be here. Good morning, everybody.
Good morning, indeed. Are you drinking wine?
Good afternoon.
Are you working?
I do have several bottles in front of me, but
Nice.
At about 10 a.m., we're going to be blending one of our new products that we'll be coming out with later this year. So that'll be
Awesome.
exciting.
Can you tell us about it? Can you give us a little sneak preview?
Oh, maybe.
Ooh.
Maybe we'll get to that later in the show because we got a lot to talk about today.
Yes, we do.
It's always funny because my friend Lucas Plant up in Portland, I'm a motorcycle guy. He's also a motorcycle guy. We're like brothers, and like we probably FaceTime at least once a day. But he'll be hanging out in his garage, smoking cigars and drinking the Prisoner. And he's always like, "I'm gonna go crush some Prisoner out in the garage," like sitting next to my choppers. And I'm just like, "Man, you're living like the best life." But let's talk about what you do and like kind of the origin story of the Prisoner, if you don't mind.
Yeah, so I make wine, which is one of the greatest jobs in the world and allows me to love what I do. So I enjoy coming to work every day. It's pretty amazing. I've been, just a little background, I've been in the wine industry for a little over 20 years. And I've been with The Prisoner for 6. And by far, it has been the best winemaking experience in my career, and has really, I think, just shaped my whole world, and I've learned so much because making The Prisoner is a pain in the ass. So
that's like what we do. We do things that are like hard to do, and hopefully the product is, spectacular.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. I remember my first vintage was 2016, and when we were looking at all of the components, and then we tasted them, we decided what's in, what's out, And then we put the blend together, and you're like, oh my God, that's Prisoner. It was like, it was a pretty amazing experience, because it was hard to kind of get there. And then once you got there, it was like, wow, this is awesome. But the Prisoner, it's been around for a little over 20 years. And it was started by Dave Finney, which I think most people know that. And, one of the things that we really want people to understand is the origin of the label. And especially in this day and age, there's just a lot of things going on in the world. We want people to understand that the label comes from a piece of art by Francisco Goya. And it is actually Dave Finney's parents gifted a copy of an etching to him when he was a young kid, and he used it as the inspiration for the Prisoner, and that's what we have on the label. Is Francisco Goya at the time was going through a time in his life when it was really difficult. It was the Peninsular Wars in the in the 18th century, and it was a time for him when he just saw all of this chaos and just bad things going on in his world. And so this is an etching from the Disasters of War series, and it's actually called, in translation, The Little Prisoner. So, when we look at Prisoner, like packaging and stuff like that, we want to, we want to be artistic about it. We want to be thoughtful about it. And we want people to look at the label and, make them kind of wonder, how did that come about? Or what's in that bottle? And typically on our bottles, we don't put a lot of information. So there isn't like a huge back label with, the elevation of the vineyards and the soil and all that kind of stuff. It's pretty nondescript. So that's a little bit about the Prisoner.
Minimalist. I'd say minimalist, right?
Oh yeah, it's very, very minimalist. Yeah, which is good. It keeps people thinking, guessing, but we want them to guess in the right way.
Yeah. I feel like that's something that, like, for me, my background is in graphic design in print. And so one of the things I was first drawn to was the label, because it's also framed. It's interesting because obviously it's this piece of fine art, this painting, but it's also framed in a way that's almost like a Polaroid.
Oh,
you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
I thought that was really cool, like a juxtaposition. Obviously that's not probably the intention, but I thought it kind of caught my eye first from 10, 15 feet away on the shelf. And then I was like, what's that? And then I was like, oh, this is a painting. And then you realize it's kind of like the subtitle below it. And this, The Prisoner, just like, it just kind of blew up, right? I mean, like it's one of the quickest growth of wine, of a wine that we've kind of seen in our kind of modern history in the industry, right? I mean, like, it was something like it took 2 years and it was like everyone was talking about it. It seemed like,
Yeah.
right at the 2000 mark, somewhere around there.
Right. Yep. That's when it really started taking off. And it's just what I think one of the things that's just made it so popular is just how approachable it is, and so when we look at wines across the Prisoner Wine Company portfolio, and we'll, get into talking about more of that later, they all have kind of the same common style running through them, but there's a deliberate intention to make them different, but have that common theme. And Prisoner, what I love about just the origin of it is how it is a blend that came about from different growers, in Napa Valley that, were growing heritage varieties that were brought over in the 1800s. And, I think when we think about Napa Valley in this day and age, it's Cabernet, it's Chardonnay and Sauvignon Blanc,
Right.
So there's not a ton of diversity, but, there are a lot of pockets of the Zinfandel, Syrah, Charbonneau, these other, Italian varieties that really is what Napa was. And so we partner with a ton of growers and getting, little lots here and there of, what like their livelihood is, what their, third, fourth generation farm is. And I think that's what makes it special for me is their livelihood is our livelihood is their livelihood, and we partner in it together and keep each other going. There's really no other blend like it still today.
I like that you touched on that, because a lot of times I think people forget, because, especially if you visit Napa Valley or Sonoma, like any kind of like real rich wine region, you see like all these big build outs of these huge estate vineyard tasting rooms and all this stuff. And you're just like, man, this is like, it's like everything is like so baller and extravagant and everything. But at the end of the day, it's an agricultural product. Right.
Yep.
And I love going back to that, because like I grew up on a farm in Oklahoma, and like when I'm driving through wine country, I feel like I see it maybe a different way. I'm not saying like, oh, like no one gets it, like anything like that.
Yeah.
But I'm like, I feel like I'm driving through farmland, like even going to Cognac, like my first trip to Cognac, we were flew into Bordeaux and we're driving in Cognac, and I was looking out the window of the bus we were in, and I was like, man, this reminds me a lot of Oklahoma. This is not what I was expecting. Even like the vineyards, like, in the vineyards in Cognac, there's like tons of sunflowers. And so like it's kind of like mixed in together, and you're just like, this just looks like farmland, like not super industrial farmland, but like farmland, and I feel like wine country here in California, like that's what I really connect with. And then of course, yeah, you've got this like beautiful bottle that, you got charged like 15 times for when you go to like Del Posto or whatever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, at the end of the day, it's really an agricultural product. And I like that you touched on the partnership with different farmers, basically, for sourcing grapes and finding the right ones. And I think that's a really important part that doesn't get like really touched on too much with the wine industry. It's always about like, the bottle, and, like where it's placed and like how it's being served. And at the end of the day, it's like your terroir isn't just like a fancy word that gets thrown around with wine nerds. It's a real thing,
Oh, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah. 100%. And, I think what makes me really resonate with The Prisoner is, it's fun. I like to see myself as fun. And it's, it's down to earth. You come to the winery, come to the tasting room. It's bitchin'. It's,
Nice.
it's not stodgy. It's not gaudy. It's just, I remember when it first opened, it's like, man, I just want to work in here. You got the music going, high ceilings. It's airy. There's great food, and
Speaking
it's just
of
fun.
I love that the chef Brett, on the website, it says this for the Chardonnay. It says Chef Brett recommends pairing the Prisoner Chardonnay with a grilled cheese sandwich.
Oh yeah.
I'm like, that's so fucking awesome.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And the kitchen is amazing. Like I can be kind of picky. You wouldn't know it by looking at me, but I can be kind of picky, and it's just like I just don't care when I go into that kitchen, and we're having a meal. I don't ask a lot of questions because it just tastes good. It's
just
always good.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
That's
it's such a like sensory overload experience. It's absolutely amazing. And I think Chef Brett too, he has a lot of kind of Asian, Indian twists on his meals, and so it's like, with our wines, the different varieties, it gives him like a playground to work in, and it's not just like, here, have your ribeye. Nothing against a ribeye, but it's just, it allows for much more creativity for him.
Yeah. Nothing wrong with the ribeye.
No, nothing wrong with the ribeye. Yeah, I was eyeballing the tomahawks at Whole Foods.
So to me, okay, I kind of want to go back to just a little bit. I mean, yeah, the juice is amazing, right? Everyone knows that. From a business point of view, for me, I just I keep because I watched it happen, right? So I turned 21 around the same time that this started, and so I remember even in Oklahoma City, like people buzzing about it, something that was started out as such a small brand, and then it just fucking exploded. How do you think that happened? Is it, I mean, obviously it's a great product, but was it any kind of marketing? Was it just something that clicked? Was it just a magic moment? I mean, because that does happen.
Yeah. I mean, I think, at that time, Dave Finney still owned it, and he is a marketing mastermind. So, I'm not exactly sure how he did it. I know that I don't have that skill set. But yeah, I mean, I think it's just, a lot of hand selling, educating people about it, getting out there, knowing the right people. I think it's just, kind of a combination of all of those things.
There's something kind of I don't know. To me, there's always been, and maybe it's just in the name or what, but there's something kind of defiant and kind of punk rock and kind of fuck about the Prisoner.
Yeah. I also like that about it.
Yeah, and I think that to me is kind of what attracted me to it, being an old punk, and it really spoke to me. The Prisoner, yeah, fuck y'all. I don't know. That was supposed to be the message, but it definitely was I was yeah, all right, this is something it spoke to me in a way where it's okay, the wine industry is kind of old and stodgy and uppity in California, and just the Northern California wine region. Not saying that Paso Robles is a shit talking wine country or wine region, because I don't really know them that well. But it just felt like everything was kind of stuffy and snooty, and then along comes the Prisoner. And the cool thing about it was it's not like it was a cheap wine to start, price point. It was but it was at the exact right price point. It's that, to me, it was that specific balance of price point being all right, this is something of quality, but it's also kind of screw y'all, we're doing this differently, and that is very attractive to people, especially people like me. And, it turns out that the wine was actually good too, and so it just seemed like this perfect storm that happened all at the same time. And, I don't know. I feel there's, in the spirits side of the industry, there's some pretty hardcore fanaticism and brand loyalty, people getting tattoos of for instance, I have a Fernet Branca tattoo. And people will get even on the lowbrow side, they'll get the Lady in the Moon from the Miller High Life bottle, but I've actually seen a couple of people with Prisoner tattoos, and that's
really,
Yeah, totally.
Oh my
Super
gosh, that's amazing.
nerdy sommeliers in New York City, and like,
Huh.
yeah, but like it's like I've never seen that with another brand, another wine label or winery. Like I've never like. I mean, I would get like Carlo Rossi's signature, like tattooed on my butt or something, you know, just for fun.
Oh yeah.
But like I don't know. It's just like there's such a. I think it probably has something to do with the fact that it is technically kind of a younger brand up against these other ones, because it feels like something kind of that was like younger and fresher, and something that you could actually kind of attach yourself to and go along for the ride. It was like, I hate to say this, but it was like kind of like a wine for a new generation of sorts, you know. And that sounds so stupid, but it really was, and it is, you know.
Right. I feel like it gave people who maybe were not confident about trying wine because of, just I think sometimes what we think about some people who drink wine, I think it gave them an in.
Yeah, for sure.
To try something that was super soft and bold and it's dense and tasty, that they were maybe not confident to drink other wines before, or I'm trying to think of the right word. So I mean, I can't think of the right word. So
it's hard, right? It's like kind of this perfect storm, right? That like just worked all together at the same time. It's great timing, great like product, everything. It all just happened. And yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying. Like it gave, like say, like someone who was new to the world of wine, it gave them an in, because it was like, all right, cool. I know this is fucking badass. This is delicious, and if I bring this to a dinner party, I'm going to like actually like wow people who have been wine drinkers for, 40, 50 years.
Right.
Yeah. Well, let's take a quick break, and we'll get back in just a couple minutes and continue talking with Chrissy from The Prisoner. We have 1 week until St. Patrick's Day.
Dun, dun, dun.
Oh my God, Greg, how much Guinness are you going to drink?
I'm going to drink a lot because, I mean, think about it, man. Think about it. This is not just St. Patrick's Day 2022. This is the first St. Patrick's Day that we really get to enjoy since 2019. Now, did I enjoy St. Patrick's Day in 2019? Not really. Did I have to work? Yes. Did I have to deal with a bunch of drunk people? Yes. But this year, now that I'm like not going to have to be behind a bar, I'm going to, you know what? And I live in a very Irish neighborhood. I'm going to go out and I'm going to really enjoy myself, because, we haven't gotten this chance in a while. And like we were talking about at the top of the show, everything in moderation, especially moderation. So if you feel like going out and having a good time on St. Patrick's Day this year, I say, yeah, go for it. Let yourself have some Guinness. Cut loose a little bit.
Yeah. And even if you don't go out, you can celebrate at home. I mean, there's all kinds of resources at DiageoBarAcademy.com for spirits and Guinness in food pairings. You can't, speaking of moderation, you got to have the food with the drink, right? St. Patrick's Day is all about like, it's kind of like a marathon, so you got to make sure you're pairing it with food too. So at DiageoBarAcademy.com, there's all kinds of cool information about Guinness and about St. Patrick's Day. And like, we just keep going back to DiageoBarAcademy.com because it's like peeling back the layers. There's always more to learn there, right? And it's all free.
I know. There's always, when you think you've gotten to the end of something, like it's even stuff that you didn't know that you didn't know. Like 2019 me would have loved to have had their their Guinness essentials list of how to deal with what is a delightful and fairly unique and occasionally persnickety beverage that is very much a part of every March 17th. So if you are wondering how to get it to pour exactly right, definitely go check out Diageo Bar Academy, because they've got you covered on that and a lot of surprising things you didn't know about Irish stouts.
That's right. You can check it all out at DiageoBarAcademy.com. That's DIAGEO BarAcademy.com. Sláinte.
Hey everyone, I'm Jesse Sparks, host of the new podcast, The One Recipe, from the team behind The Splendid Table. This pod is all about that one recipe that you lean on. The one you share with friends, the one you make when you need a little love, and the one you know will work every single time. Every week, I talk with chefs and gifted cooks from all over the world about their one, and the story behind it. We're here to help you build your kitchen library one dish at a time. Follow The One Recipe wherever you get your podcasts.
And we're back. You're listening to the Speakeasy on heritageradionetwork.org. In the studio today, we have Chrissy from The Prisoner, Chrissy Whitman, the director of winemaking. And we were talking a lot about The Prisoner on the first half of the show. You are expanding the brand, and I didn't realize that this was one of yours, but it makes complete sense. I saw this bottle on the shelf maybe less than a year ago, and I was immediately drawn to it, kind of in the same way that I was with The Prisoner, with the packaging. The Saldo, it has this, it's like a cab style bottle, and then it's just got a little piece of red label tape that says Saldo. It's that old school, Greg, you know those old, before we had the Brother P-Touch label makers, the ones that you would like punch, like they would like do the click thing and it would pop, It would emboss the tape,
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So this is what it is. It's the red tape with the white embossed letters and it just says Saldo on it. It's like the coolest fucking label. And so I was like, I don't know what that is, but I'm going to buy it because I really appreciate the minimalist kind of approach to the label. And then, of course, come to find out, it's part of the Prisoner family. So can you talk about Saldo? And also, I know you have another one called Unshackled coming out. Let's hear about those. Okay.
All right. So, I think the main thing that we want to, make sure that we, I kind of convey is that, there's a distinct style that we're trying to put together across the three brands from a very deliberate sourcing strategy. So, Unshackled, is kind of at the more affordable price point, to kind of get people familiar with the brand. And so a lot of the sourcing that comes with Unshackled is Central Coast, some North Coast, and Lodi. And, I have just kind of my terminology as to how I differentiate between the three brands. And so when I think of Unshackled, it's fun and fresh with a side of serious. And a lot of that is driven by the sourcing. It's, at this point we've got Cabernet, we have a red blend and a Sauvignon Blanc. And then we will be coming out with a Pinot Noir and a Chardonnay towards the end of the year. So it's, just really trying to, fill a niche at that price point with Prisoner style and, just the great quality and consistency that's in every bottle that we make. So, so Unshackled, super fun wine. When we look at Saldo's, kind of morphing into a different type of brand under the Prisoner Wine Company. It's going to be our kind of brand that gives people an opportunity to explore varieties they may not be super familiar with, but have that really, sweet ass packaging. And so, I see that as it's fun and exploratory, more North Coast, Sierra Foothills, Sonoma. And, really all started with the Zinfandel. Yeah. And it's just super spicy and food friendly. Has a bit more maybe tannin and acidity to it than, some of the other Prisoner wines. So it's really just kind of made a name for itself just by virtue of having it as a Zinfandel. And then now we're expanding it with another red blend that is Petite Syrah based, which is one of the very, very special grapes that we get to work with across the portfolio. And then we're also launching Chenin Blanc,
which I'm very excited about. I love Chenin Blanc, and
it's really good.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just super happy with it, and it's got a nice little green label on it, and
it's the green label tape.
It just looks, green label tape and blue label tape on the red blend. It's awesome. And then we have
Greg, are you like ready to come out and visit me so we can do some wine tasting? Like, how are you feeling about all this?
I mean, I'm super stoked about all this. I mean, this is I've said this before, but wine is definitely my blind spot in the world of fun drinkables. You know, I've got, the world of spirits down and beer down, but as much as, a reasonable human being should, and then a little bit beyond that, I think. But I like wines, and that there is still sort of it's nice to know that there are still new things to learn and discover. And it's like, I know what I like, but the world is so vast and deep that there's, I would love to come out and just hang out in the Prisoner tasting room for an afternoon and just sort of try all this and learn about
Let
these
me know.
wines.
Yeah.
Let me know.
Absolutely. I also wanted to ask you about the, because one thing we were talking about earlier is kind of the aesthetic of the Prisoner, right? And how it sort of breaks down that wall that even to me is a little bit intimidating of like, oh man, this is such a vast world. There's so much to know. It's like, no matter how deep you get into it, you'll only ever be scratching the surface. Right. And I'm looking at all these new bottles that you guys have, and I'm noticing that they don't, like Damon said, he was looking at Saldo. He's like, whoa, that's a cool label. This wine sounds delicious. Oh, and it's a Prisoner wine. I wanted to know sort of what the mentality was for going with this very sort of varied aesthetic that you guys have. Like, all the bottles are kind of different shapes. They look different. Are you kind of trying to, say, hey, this is within our family, but, don't come into this with any preconceived notions about what it is, because we want you to try it on its own merits. Like, what's sort of the advantage to that kind of mix and match packaging you guys are doing?
Yeah, and actually I think our packaging has gotten a bit more like similar across different SKUs and more brand specific. But like when you come to the DTC, the tasting room, we've got even more different labels, names, all that kind of, and varieties. So I think it's, when I think of it, it's just, there's a mysteriousness to it. And, you see it and you just want to buy it just because you think it's cool.
I was going to say, to me, there's like, just from a design point of view, it definitely, there's an attitude that it has that is unlike any other winery out there in the Valley. It's like, it's kind of like, poking people, a little bit, like, check this out. We made this badass wine, but also, we just slapped a 70s, label, like label tape, on it. And, there you go. Enjoy.
Right. I mean, there's no pretentiousness to
exactly.
it. It's kind of like, this is what you got, take it or leave it. And that kind of shows the attitude, I know, when we talk about, just the Prisoner and some of what it stands for is, fearless and pureless.
Cool.
We break the rules when rules hold us back. And so we just want to keep continuing to push that. And, in everything that we do, we're always looking to push the limit. Whether it's, winemaking, blending different varieties together that, have traditionally been like, oh my goodness, like you can't do that, and with everything, blends, packaging, just a general attitude of, this is the flexibility that we have. And it's just a mindset, always looking for something better.
Yeah, I think there's only a few wineries out there that can like pull off that kind of that attitude and outlook and like just be like, here we are, what's up? Like we know this is good, like and you should too. One that comes to mind is Tank. Tank up in
Calistoga.
Calistoga. They're just like
Yeah.
they're in an old gas station. They're just kind of like, yeah, screw it. Like we're making orange wine in the Upper Valley, and like, we're slapping like, you can buy a cigar box guitar in their tasting room if you want. It's like just kind of crazy. Like I love the new attitude of the wine industry in Napa Valley. It's really cool. And like, obviously The Prisoner really like kind of introduced that, in my opinion, and in a lot of people's opinions, I'm sure you too. But this is really cool. I love that, for something that started as The Prisoner that is so like such a standard, for modern wine, that you're expanding the lines out like this. And it just kind of goes to show that like, I mean, growth isn't a bad thing. It's a very good thing if it's all done the right way. And this is all done the right way. And are there anything like, I mean, I know like we were talking about, earlier in the show about like, the world kind of like slowly but surely seemingly opening back up. Are like there's all kinds of fun stuff that's coming along this summer and the spring. I mean, I know that like one big thing that a lot of people look forward to in Napa Valley, I guess it's really Napa town, is like thing like Bottle Rock, which is a big concert festival. I mean, they did it last year, but it was kind of I don't know what the word is for this, but it was like we're still deep in COVID. So it was like
Right.
Meg the Stallion like kicked ass. But like,
Oh, she's so funny.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think Guns N' Roses got kicked off early.
Right.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, exactly. But do you ever do any like kind of partnership collaborations with any kind of events like that in the Valley?
Yeah, so we have partnered with Bottle Rock before, and we will be continuing to partner with them this year.
Cool.
And we'll actually be kind of like an introduction, of Saldo and the line
Nice.
to the public, as we'll have a cabana featuring the Saldo wines, and they'll also be poured at all the concessions. So it's going to be nice to get it out there. Many people know who The Prisoner is. I think it's going to be nice to put some attention on Saldo and gain some fans. And Bottle Rock is always a good time. So
Yeah. It makes it's like
Glad
a
to be
perfect
involved.
partnership too, because the Prisoner and Saldo and Unshackled, it's very like rock and roll kind of vibe that
Mhm.
that you put off with them. So it makes it's perfect partnership for the big concert festival that happens out here, which I'm really looking forward to. Some of my friends are playing the Black Crows and some other
Oh,
friends
cool.
coming in from the East Coast, and so I'm looking forward to it. And obviously you'll be there, right?
Yep.
Signing autographs,
For
signing
sure.
bottles.
Oh God, that is the funniest thing to me.
Why?
This
It
is
happens
the
all the
first
time in the
time we
booze
I don't
world.
know. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know. It's just funny,
I was hanging out with
Yeah,
Tito.
I'm just like, who am I? But
Yeah. No, I got Tito beverage of Tito's vodka to sign his first bottle. And my buddies back in the day, I was down there like 15, 16 years ago in Austin. And, they it's not like a place where they do tours or anything like that. Like, like they do in Bourbon Country. But I was down there for a like kind of Burning Man festival that happens out in the hill country outside of Austin.
Mhm.
And so I was meeting a bunch of friends, but before that, I wanted to go visit Tito and say what's up. And so I went out, out in the country where his distillery is. And, he's still got like wild dogs running around everywhere and, shotguns and all that shit. And so he was kind of expanding his holding tank barn and all this stuff. And we were, he just wanted to show me around. So we had these old test tubes and we pulled like right off the still, like at 170 proof. And we're just like sipping on this 170 proof vodka walking around this farm. And we get to the end and he was like, "Hey man, you should take a bottle. You're going camping, right? With some friends." And I was like, "Yeah, I am." And so he pulls a liter bottle out of a case and hands it to me. I'm like, "Oh, dude, thank you. But you're going to sign it, right?" And he's like, "What the fuck are you talking about? Why would I do that?" And he's like, I was like, "Because that's what people do now, you know, like the distill, you're the guy." Like, he's like, "What do I say on it?" I was like, "Well, to Damon, rock and roll, Tito," you know, something like that.
Yeah.
And so he's like,
Just draw
"Okay."
a little heart on there and call it a day.
Yeah. And then he hands me the bottle and he walks me into my car after drinking 170 proof vodka straight off the still. And he's like, so yeah, going camping with some friends. Like, how many friends you going camping with? And I was like, "Oh, like 2,500. And he's like, "Oh shit." Then he goes back inside and he grabs a case of 1.75 liters. He's like, "You should probably take this then." So he gave me a case and a liter and signed a bottle. And I was like,
Wow.
that's why you signed the bottle. Cause like, you know, it would have been cool, like to just get a bunch of free vodka for my camp out. But like the signed bottle was really like the icing, you know? And so you should definitely be signing some bottles.
Oh yeah.
Bring a Sharpie.
I'll have my pen.
There you go. You'll have your label maker.
This is just the wildest thing to me is like an East Coaster.
That'd be cool.
Yeah, there you go.
Just sign them with a piece of label tape with your name, with Chrissy Whitman stamped in it.
Oh my God.
That would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious. Yeah. I got to sock that away in my mind.
Yeah. I'll remind you when we get closer to Bottle Rock.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to be hanging out with you there. And maybe Greg can come out too.
That'd be
it would
awesome.
be such a culture shock for me. Like I'm an East Coaster, so hearing you guys talk about like, yeah, this rock and roll wine festival thing is just like it's such a different world for me. So I'll have to come out there and see how the other half lives, and you know, get a lot of things personally labeled by Chrissy Whitman of the Prisoner.
Oh, yeah.
That'll be a good time, man. Let's
do it.
I'll take you to French Laundry. Sweet. I mean, sorry, I will not. I'll take it. I'll show it to you. We'll drive by it.
Yeah, exactly.
And then we'll go to St. Helena and check out the Prisoner tasting room. Where can people find information about that, by the way?
Yeah, so our website is theprisonerwinecompany.com. So you can look for some information on reservations and different wines, info about the Prisoner. We also have Instagram, Prisoner Wine Co. I would bet you would see some of the Bottle Rock information there. And we're also looking at maybe hosting some after events. So keep your eyes peeled for that. So that'll be awesome. So there we go.
Yeah, nice. Also, Greg, here's something that we don't get to talk about on the show very often because we're mostly talking about spirits, but you can join the wine club at the Prisoner and get your seasonal allocations if you'd like. Right?
Ooh.
And we got a shitload of new wines coming out. Shitload.
Nice.
And they're very small. They're small productions. Some are partnerships. We have a 3-pack coming out. It's Wine for Justice. So, you know, these just new things continuing to come out and kind of separate us out from the rest. Yeah.
Which you've always done very well. This has been awesome, Chrissy. We've been doing this show I've been doing it for over 11 years now. And I rarely get to talk about wine, but it's something that I'm a member at several wineries. Like I love living out here and being able to go to the wineries and working in wine country. And so this has been a blast for me to talk to you about some of the best wine out there. And, that's another thing too, is like, we don't really talk about wine much, but when we do, we get the best people on. So thanks again for being on the show today. This has been great. And I hope Greg's learned a lot.
Oh
he's,
yeah,
he's learned
I'll
that he needs to.
I'll tell you what, man. Well, this reminds me of when I was living in DC. I was living right down the street from this Italian wine spot called A Latteri. If you're ever in the neighborhood, go. It's one of only 3 wine stores in the world that have been recognized by the Italian government as selling like a really, really excellent selection of Italian wines.
Nice.
One of them's in New York. I think the other one is in Japan. The one in DC is in a warehouse district that has a bunch of halal slaughterhouses, a possibly defunct strip club, a 24-hour subway with bulletproof glass in front of the sandwich making counter, and this amazing world-class wine shop. And it was run by this guy named Ken, who actually passed away a few years ago, which is a huge loss because he was an amazing person who either owned multiple black T-shirts that said "Got Wine" or "Wear the same shirt to work" every single day. I couldn't figure it out. But, you know, I realized when I was like, you know, getting further and further into the bar industry that, you know, again, I knew beer pretty well. I knew spirits pretty well. I didn't really know shit about wine. So I went to him and I was like, hey, man, I don't know much about what you sell. You seem to know a lot about what you're talking about. I'm going to come here once a week. Just hook me up with a cool bottle of wine. We'll talk about it and I'll learn where we go from here. And I did this for a year. And I thought at the end of the year, I'd have a pretty good idea of like the scope of the general like world of wine. No, I knew specifically about Italian reds. Every single week for a year, I got a different Italian red. And I know those pretty goddamn well at this point. One time, I think I got a rosé because I asked him for something different. He begrudgingly gave me something that was not quite an Italian red. But the thing I sort of took away from that experience is that 1, wines from Puglia kick ass. And 2, there's always so much more to explore. Like you really can do it literally once a week for a year and only just scratch the surface of one very specific part of this world. So all of which is to say, I'll see you in the tasting room.
Awesome.
Cool. All right. Well, thanks again, Chrissy.
Thank you, Damon. Thank you, Greg. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's been awesome.
It's been a good time.
All right. Well, that's it for the Speakeasy this week. Check out The Prisoner. If you haven't already, check out The Prisoner and check out Solo and Unshackled because they're kicking ass. And check out other programs on heritageradionetwork.org like this one. Click on the beating heart to donate to the station. Keep us going. Until next time, cheers, everyone.
Cheers.
Cheers.
So you don't charm the devil with your rock.
The Speakeasy is powered by Simplecast. Thanks for listening to Heritage Radio Network, food radio supported by you. For our freshest content and to learn more about our 10-year anniversary celebration happening all year long, subscribe to our newsletter. Enter your email at the bottom of our website, heritageradionetwork.org. Connect with us on Instagram and Twitter at heritage_radio. You can also find us at facebook.com/Heritage Radio Network.
Heritage Radio Network is a nonprofit organization driving conversations to make the world a better, fairer, more delicious place. And we couldn't do it without support from listeners like you. Want to be part of the food world's most innovative community? Subscribe to the shows that you like. Tell your friends. And please, join the HRN family by becoming a member. Just click on the beating heart at the top right of our homepage. Thanks for listening.